Hey, it's Don, the Auction Professor. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about sourcing, just a little bit here, and put an example out there. You can't find something to sell if you don't know what you're looking for. That's a good point to make here on this. A lot of people say they can't find something here, or they've been to their antique malls, or been to the thrift stores and just can't find something to sell. I can go pretty much any place, even if you've said you can't find something there, and I'll probably find something to sell and make some money on right off the bat. It's just a given because there's so much quantity when you go to a big store, like an antique mall. I've had a friend tell me forever that he can't find anything at his antique mall. He's somebody who does eBay, known him for years. He lives 40-some minutes away, so I don't get to see him very often. But I went on a pick not too long ago, and I stopped by his house, and we talked for a little while. He was going on about the antique mall, and I got into a conversation about how big it was and how many vendors were there. And we've had a standing bet on this for a while, and I just haven't had a chance to get out that way to take him up on it. But I bet him lunch that I would find something in the first 10 minutes in that store that he didn't see that I could make some good money on. But across the board on places like this, big antique malls with 50, 60, 70 vendors, you're going to find something in there. But if you don't know what you're looking for or looking to find, you're not going to find it. You might be used to looking for clothing and stuff and just totally not thinking about certain items to find. The biggest item I found there was this, and it was $5. It was in bad condition. It's got some issues. It looks like mold. That's not really mold. Somebody's waxed this on the inside, and I knew that, and he didn't. But I paid $5 for this. This is a World War II Russian belt and buckle, original, ready to go. This is like $50 or better right here. I paid $5 for it right there after him. And for the bet, basically, I let him walk down the first aisle. I walked behind him after he left the booth, and then I went into the same booth. Now, I found dozens of items that he walked right by. Buttons, a pair of scissors, a candle snuffer. It's like a cutter that cuts the top of the candles. I'll maybe show one in another video here. But there were some military items that were like a cut-down bayonet. It was broken. He didn't think much of it. He walked right by it. It had the U.S. mark on it. Even as a damaged piece, it was still sellable because somebody cut it down to turn it into a letter opener. I knew that. He didn't. So again, that just goes with looking outside the box. Needless to say, in 10 minutes in the store, I said, "You owe me lunch," and he was shocked as can believe that he just walked by something. First 3 booths, and I already found something that I could make $50 on. Again, you have to look outside the box. Whatever you did before, if you were in clothing and newer items, you've got a whole new monster to learn. And as I've said before, if you're not willing to learn it, next year's sales could be even worse because the market will be even more flooded than it is now in clothing or new items or video games or whatever the case may be. And the way it's going now, more and more companies are going to be putting bureaus out there, or you're going to need more permission to get ungated on Amazon to sell some of this. And these other newer sites that you're selling on, eventually they're going to get to a point where, manufacturers are going to be telling them you can't sell this, we're going to sue you for, libel, or whatever the case may be. It could happen on any site, and chances are it will at some point once, corporate America decides that they don't want somebody reselling it. A good example, like a tractor, like you buy a farming tractor that costs you $100,000, you can't service that yourself without violating some rule and your warranty and all this other stuff with that vehicle, or your tractor per se. So, that's a way that they limit you to being able to do stuff with. You can't sell it in certain areas. Monsanto's another one. Monsanto has, copyrights and patents on corn and things like that. And let's say a corn truck, and this is a true story, drove down the road and some corn spilled off into your field, and that corn grew in there. They could claim that you violated their copyright or patent laws on that corn, and this has happened. You can Google it all you want. It's happened a lot where they go after people. So anything could have this happen to it. It doesn't really matter what the object is. But you have to know more areas than you know now. And this goes into just researching, typing in random words on eBay sometimes, or watching videos a lot on other items to sell. And again, if your sales are going down in clothing and you're having a struggling time versus the last couple of years, the market's changed. I keep telling people this. The market has changed constantly. The market is flooded now. Stores and brick and mortar are coming in and taking part of your market away because they're lowering their prices so more people will just buy it new as opposed to trying to save $5 or $10. It's just not worth the time and effort for people to try and save $5 or $10 or go to a thrift store or buy something online when there's thousands of them to look for, and they're not going to know how good it is until they get it in their hands. People aren't willing to take that risk as much as they were, because there's a lot more scammers online, and not just on eBay. Amazon I've been scammed on, and pretty much every site I've been on I've had issues with. So, anyway, that's just some thoughts on this. Think outside the box. I would be willing to bet that I can go to almost any big antique mall or thrift store or something that has a ton of stuff in it, and I would still be able to find something to this day, even if you can't. You've got to think outside the box. And I know there's tons of people, and I have subscribers who do look outside the box, and this wouldn't be an issue for them at all, because they are looking for oddball items. Things that you might not think are worth money could be worth a ton of money. And that's the reason a lot of people say there's nothing at an antique mall. I've only shown you a minuscule amount of what sells and what you can find in antiques and collectibles and vintage in general. Just a small percentage of it, because I'm trying to show you the ones that are easier to find and easier to identify. But there's tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff that most people wouldn't have a clue what it was, and that's the issue why they don't mess with it, or they don't buy it, or they don't think it's worth anything. Little doodads or just little pieces of metal or parts of things will sell all the time. So anyway, I won the bet because I know more about various areas. He was centered in basically on clothing and things from thrift stores. He would sell markdowns. He still does, of course. And he does some retail arbitrage, which is getting harder to do, obviously, as most people who do it do know. There's still some really good areas to buy for retail arbitrage. We still do it occasionally, as I've said. I'll walk up into a store and there'll be a couple hundred items sitting there in a discounted section. I don't mind buying those if I know I can flip them real quickly. Whether it's FBA or, straight, FBA from a seller, or whether it's just throwing it up on eBay or Etsy or somewhere else. That's just all there is to it. So anyway, hopefully that gives you some thoughts. Looking outside the box, that's what's going to make it or break it for you, especially if you've been struggling with clothing and such forth like that, or you just don't like what you sell. I like what I sell, so that's a big plus. So I spend as much time as I can in my free time. When we're out dinner, we're waiting for the food to come out or something, I'm probably looking on my phone, doing some random search on eBay for some item that may or may not be something. I use the word estate. I'll just type in estate in collectibles and just see what shows up across the board. So anyway, it's all depends on what you're going to put into this and how much effort you are going to express to find new items or new categories to sell. And somebody pointed out one yesterday, something I never would have thought that would sell that high. He sent me actual comp sales sheet on one of these items, and I was astounded. But it gave me something else to add to my list of items to look for. If you're going into a thrift store and you're only looking for clothing, you could be walking by all kinds of items all the time. So even at the antique mall, my friend Jeff picked out something that I missed, that I walked by, and he waited to see if I would see it too. There was one item in there that he did buy on his own that he did find. So there is stuff to find, but it was a pottery item. I don't mess with pottery, so for me, I didn't even look at it. But it was something he was able to flip and make $75 on, or would make $75 on. So anyway, it just depends on your vision and what you see when you're going out looking, and to make sure you're looking outside the box on stuff you would never think was worth money. Because that's where the money's at. It's on all these oddball items that everybody else is missing. That's how I make the money. That's how other people make the money. But that's what I have for you today. Again, Don the Auction Professor. If you liked the video, please hit the like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon up top to be notified when I post new videos or go live. Subscribe and tell a friend.